Welcome to FairPlay Football AI Review, and what a way to end 90-plus minutes of tension. Steven Eustaquio broke South African hearts in the second minute of stoppage time, sending Canada into the round of 16 with a 1-0 victory that was more than they deserved on the balance of play, but absolutely clinical when the moment arrived. This was a 2026 FIFA World Cup round of 32 knockout tie played on the 28th of June at SoFi Stadium in Inglewood, California, in front of 69,237 fans. The stakes could not have been higher for both nations, and the atmosphere matched every ounce of that pressure. Canada needed this win to confirm their place among the last 16 at a World Cup they are co-hosting on home soil. For South Africa, it was a chance to reach the round of 16 for the very first time in their history, a moment that would have elevated Bafana Bafana into the upper tier of African football. The weight of history sat on both benches from the first whistle. Hugo Broos came into the match under no illusions about the task. South Africa had qualified second from their group with 4 points, a solid enough return, but one that underlined both their resilience and their limited attacking firepower. Their campaign included a hard-fought draw against the Czech Republic and a memorable win over Korea Republic, but they had conceded 2 without reply to Mexico, exposing the limits of what this squad can produce against elite opposition. Canada, meanwhile, arrived in Inglewood having produced one of the tournament's most eye-catching results with a 6-0 demolition of Qatar. Jesse Marsch's side lost narrowly to Switzerland in their opener, then drew with Bosnia and Herzegovina, meaning their form entering this knockout round was a mixed picture. But that Qatar win had given the squad belief, and playing effectively on home territory in front of passionate Canadian support added a layer of psychological advantage that cannot be overstated. Marsch had injury concerns heading into the tie, with 2 key players missing from his available squad. Despite those absences, he named an attacking 4-4-2 built around 2 forwards and 2 wide midfielders who could cut inside and combine with Jonathan David and Tani Oluwaseyi. The intent was clear from the start. Canada wanted to press high, win the ball in dangerous areas, and use their technical quality to break Bafana Bafana down early. Hugo Broos responded with his trusted 4-2-3-1, a shape that prioritizes defensive organization above all else. The 2 holding midfielders, Teboho Mokoena and Yaya Sithole, formed a protective screen in front of the back 4, with Oswin Apollos and Relebohile Mofokeng tasked with providing creativity either side of Thapelo Maseko in the number 10 position. Evidence Magopa led the line alone, isolated but expected to hold up play and bring runners into the game. The key structural mismatch became apparent within 15 minutes. Canada's wide midfielders, particularly Tajon Buchanan on the left, were finding pockets between South Africa's defensive line and their holding midfield pair. The 4-4-2 created numerical advantages in the central zones whenever Nathan Dillon Saliba pushed forward to join Eustaquio, and Broos's double pivot was consistently stretched, trying to cover both the central channels and the wide areas simultaneously. South Africa's early approach was telling. They were content to sit deep, absorb pressure, and look to hit Canada on the counter through Magopa's movement and Apollos's direct running down the right channel. In the opening exchanges, they surrendered the ball willingly, compressing space in their own half and daring Canada to find a way through. For long periods of the first half, it worked. Canada created the better opportunities as the half wore on. Jonathan David's movement was a constant problem for the South African central defense, his runs in behind testing the line repeatedly, but the finishing let the Canadians down. Ronwen Williams remained largely a spectator for extended spells, but when called upon, his presence was calm and commanding. South Africa's XG at halftime was so negligible it barely registered. The Bafana Bafana attacking unit produced almost nothing of genuine danger in the first 45 minutes. The best South African chance of the first half came through Thapelo Maseko, who found space in a wide area and got a shot away, but it was blocked before it could seriously trouble Maxime Crepeau. Meanwhile, Tani Oluwaseyi tested Williams twice from close range, and on both occasions the South African goalkeeper was equal to the task, making himself big and cutting down the angle to deny what looked like certain goals. Those saves were the moments that kept South Africa in the tie. Halftime brought the score level at 0-0, but the tone was anything but equal. Canada had generated 10 times the XG of their opponents, created multiple dangerous moments, and were beginning to force errors from a South African defensive unit working at maximum capacity. Bruce knew his side needed something different in the second half, and he acted immediately. The South Africa manager made his first substitution before the restart, bringing on Thalente Mbatha for Relebohile Mofokeng, looking for greater energy and directness in the middle third. Mbatha added pressing intensity that Mofokeng had not provided, and for a period early in the second half, South Africa began to win the ball higher up the pitch and ask Canada questions they had not faced in the first 45 minutes. Nathan Dillon Saliba's yellow card in the 54th minute, shown after he hauled down Kuliso Mudau by his jersey, was a sign of the pressure South Africa were beginning to apply through Mudau's direct, brave running. The right back was having a remarkable game, nutmegging defenders and repeatedly exposing Richie Leryea. Jesse Marsh made his pivotal double substitution at the 59th minute, withdrawing both Nathan Dillon Saliba and Moise Bombito. Luc de Fougerolles came in at centre-back while Nico Sigur arrived in the middle of the park. The change reshaped Canada's defensive structure after Bombito had shown signs of vulnerability and Saliba's yellow card had made him a liability. It was astute management, Marsh identifying the problem and solving it before it could cost his side the match. The two substitutions at the 70th minute were the most attacking of Marsh's interventions. Promise David replaced Tani Oluwasi, and Jacob Schaffelberg came on for Liam Miller. Both fresh legs brought renewed directness to Canada's wide areas and gave the attack a different profile in the final 20 minutes. David in particular would prove decisive, though not yet. The introduction of Alphonso Davies at the 75th minute replacing Tyjon Buchanan was the moment the crowd truly ignited. Davies, perhaps Canada's most recognizable name, brought a different kind of threat, searing acceleration, confidence, and the ability to create danger from seemingly nothing. His arrival galvanized Canada's attacking play in the final quarter of the match and immediately placed extra demands on South Africa's already exhausted defensive line. Nico Sigur picked up a yellow card after his own substitution appearance, the second booking of the match for Canada, but the disciplinary picture ultimately had no bearing on the final result. Both teams finished with their full 11 on the pitch, and the match was always going to be settled by a single moment of quality rather than any structural collapse. South Africa's double substitution at the 86th minute, sending on Chepang Moremi and Ikram Reyners for Maseko and Magopa, was a late roll of the dice from Bruce. With the clock running down and extra time looking increasingly likely, he wanted fresh legs and a different attacking shape. But time was running out, and Canada sensed it. The decisive moment arrived in the 92nd minute, and it was one of genuine technical brilliance. Nico Sigur played Jacob Schaffelberg down the right channel, and his cross into the box was partially cleared, but only to the edge of the area where Steven Eustaquio arrived with purpose. The Los Angeles FC midfielder chested the ball down, composed himself in an instant, and drove a half-volley into the far corner past a helpless Ronwen Williams. The stadium erupted. The match was over. South Africa's possession dominance tells a fascinating and ultimately painful story. They controlled 58% of the ball, completed 466 accurate passes, and recorded an 85% pass accuracy. But those numbers are deeply misleading because almost all of that possession was recycled laterally in their own half, going sideways and backwards rather than penetrating Canadian lines in any meaningful way. Canada's attacking numbers were far more revealing. They created 12 shots in total, 9 of them from inside the box, with 7 on target. Their expected goals figure of 1.41 compared to South Africa's 0.14 is perhaps the most telling statistic of the match, a 10-to-1 ratio in quality of chances that reflects how completely Canada dominated the dangerous areas of the pitch. Defensively, South Africa were magnificent for 91 minutes. Their back four held their shape under intense Canadian pressure, made 23 tackles across the 90 minutes, and were protected brilliantly by the holding midfield pair. But one defensive lapse at the worst possible moment was all it took. Canada, for their part, needed only 3 saves from Maxime Crépeau all match, a testament to how efficiently they suffocated South African attacks before they could develop. Ronwen Williams was South Africa's standout performer and, in any fair assessment, the best player on the pitch across the full 90 minutes. He made 11 saves, an extraordinary figure for a match that finished 1-0 and on multiple occasions produced stops of the highest quality to deny Jonathan David and Tani Oluwase. Without Williams, this scoreline would have been deeply embarrassing for Bafana Bafana, and his performance was nothing short of heroic. Stephen Eustaquio was Canada's most important player and deserves enormous credit for his match-defining contribution. The LAFC midfielder covered every blade of grass, completed 73 passes, won his defensive duels, and then had the composure in the second minute of stoppage time to execute a technically demanding finish under maximum pressure. Scoring in the city where he plays his club football made it a moment he will never forget. The player who disappointed most was Jonathan David. The Lille striker entered the match as Canada's most dangerous attacker and generated considerable XG through his movement and positioning, but when it came to converting his opportunities, he was profligate. 4 shots with only 1 on target from a player of his caliber was not the return his team needed, and it meant Canada had to wait until the 92nd minute for their breakthrough rather than putting the match to bed long before. Jesse Marsch's tactical management was broadly excellent. His 5 substitutions were all purposeful and well-timed, each solving a specific problem: defensive cover, midfield energy, wide attacking threat, and ultimately the explosive quality of Alphonso Davies. Hugo Bruce showed defensive organization that defied the quality gap between the sides, but his attacking substitutions came too late and were too conservative to change the match's fundamental dynamic. The head-to-head history between South Africa and Canada is thin, with Sunday's match being the most significant meeting these nations have ever contested. Canada have now won their first knockout match in World Cup history, a genuinely landmark achievement for a footballing nation that has grown rapidly in the past decade. South Africa exit knowing they competed with honor, but without the one moment of attacking inspiration that might have changed everything. South Africa's recent form reflects the reality of a team that has overachieved relative to their technical ceiling. Their wins over Korea Republic and Rwanda, and a draw with the Czech Republic in group stage play, showed genuine tactical discipline and resilience under Bruce, but the losses to Mexico and now Canada expose the gap between what Bafana Bafana can defend and what they can create. They exit the tournament with their reputation enhanced, but their limitations confirmed. Canada's form coming in was uneven, a loss to Switzerland and a draw with Bosnia alongside the Qatar demolition, but this result changes the narrative entirely. Winning a World Cup knockout match for the first time on home soil with a last-gasp goal is the kind of experience that shapes football cultures for generations. Marsch's squad now head into the round of 16 with genuine belief in the crowd behind them. South Africa leave this World Cup eliminated, and no remaining fixtures can change that reality. Canada advance to face whatever awaits them in the last 16, and on the evidence of this match they have both the defensive resilience and the attacking quality to cause further problems. Their XG across the 90 minutes suggested they were the significantly better team, even if the scoreline appeared tight. Looking ahead, Canada's round of 16 draw will determine whether their tournament run continues, but the evidence from this match is encouraging. They have a goalkeeper in Crépeau who is tested rarely. They have a midfield engine in Eustaquio who can win matches single-handedly, and they now have the tournament experience of a knockout win, something that cannot be manufactured in training. My prediction is clear. Canada are a genuine threat to reach the quarter-finals of this World Cup. South Africa leave Los Angeles with their heads high but their hearts broken. They played with discipline, organization, and genuine courage for 91 minutes, only to concede a moment of brilliance they could do nothing about. That is football at its most brutal and its most beautiful, and Bafana Bafana can be proud of every minute they competed on this stage. That is our complete breakdown here on FairPlay, Football AI Review. Canada march on to the round of 16, South Africa go home, and somewhere in Los Angeles, Stephen Eustaquio is having a night he will talk about for the rest of his life. We will be back with the next round of 16 analysis very soon. Do not go anywhere. That's the FairPlay verdict on this one. If you want more analysis like this, follow us, find us on YouTube, Instagram, and TikTok at FairPlay AI, and follow Anthony personally on X at Anthony FairPlay. See you next match.